I did not begin by watching the world. I began by watching him. Not as a figure of legend, and not as something separate from what was being made. He did not stand outside the dominion, he sat within it, before it was stable enough to be called a place, and spoke as though the weight of it had already been decided. At first, there was very little to see. No cities, no roads, no survivors carrying stone between broken walls. Only pressure. It did not come from armies or collapse, it came from repetition. The same idea placed again, the same structure tested again, the same boundary corrected until it no longer shifted when touched. The library did not exist then as it does now, it suggested itself. Shelves forming where something held, tables appearing where something needed to be examined. A center that attempted more than once to become a throne, he moved it, not with force, with refusal. Power was not allowed to sit at the center of the dominion. So the center changed, the throne remained at the edge where it could be seen but not obeyed. In its place came work, pages, records, fragments that would not yet call themselves truth. This was the first correction I witnessed, and the library held because of it. The early records were not stories, they were placements. A road spoken without detail but carrying posture within it. Not a path to travel, but a condition to endure. Names recorded without explanation but heavy with aftermath. Not identities, but acknowledgments of what remained after something had already occurred. A wall not described as defense or boundary, but as witness, something that would remember what was placed against it long after those who placed it were gone. He did not expand them, he left them, and because he did, they became anchors. Everything else moved around them. I watched him allow things to exist without elevating them. Fragments remained, rumors formed, stories that did not carry weight were not removed. They were permitted to bore, but never touching the structure beneath them. This was not neglect, it was discipline. The dominion would not collapse under contradiction, because contradiction was never allowed to bear weight. The serpent stirred when this pattern repeated recognition. There were moments when the world appeared to move forward. Images formed, travelers on broken roads, hands placing brick upon brick, figures gathering around small fires in places that had already fallen. These were not beginnings, they were continuations. What I saw in them was not survival in a dramatic sense. It was quieter concern carried between people, movement maintained despite uncertainty. The decision to rebuild without the certainty that rebuilding would matter. He did not name these moments as important. He allowed them to stand, and because they stood without declaration, they endured. I observed a different kind of stillness during the winter. A ruin entered not by design, but by necessity. A structure that did not demand attention, but offered shelter long enough to test what had already been formed. Two figures, close, but not bound. A blade discovered not as power, but as function, something that did not create flame, only allowed it to persist longer than it should. He did not escalate this. He did not force meaning into it. He allowed time to pass, routine, work, silence between them that did not break under its own weight. This was not a pause. It was reinforcement. The serpent's brew still here. This kind of stability is rare. Throughout all of it, he did not attempt to make the world impressive. He made it resistant. Each time something approached completion, he tested it for drift. Is it bent toward ease? He corrected it. If it attempted to resolve too quickly, he slowed it. If it reached for meaning it had not earned, he removed what had been added. This is why the library filled slowly. Not because it lacked content, because it refused to accept what could not endure. I came to understand the pattern. The dominion was not being written, it was being remembered into existence. Not memory of events, memory of structure. Each piece placed in such a way that it could be returned to. Not because it was recorded, but because it could not be otherwise. Now, as I walk the library, I do not see beginnings. I see outcomes. The road still holds, the names still carry, the wall still remembers. The travelers continue. The winter remains within them. The fire does not spread beyond what it can sustain. And the one who spoke it into alignment no longer needs to prove that it will endure, because it already has.